We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Women's Track and Field Through the Decades. Tonight, we have the decade of the 1990s. We've got some outstanding alums with credentials that you will not believe joining us tonight, along with Coach Kevin Donner and one of our current student athletes, Delia Sipe, who is a senior thrower on the team from Maryland. She's also the school record holder in the indoor shot put. So thank you to Delia and welcome to the show for her. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank Geisinger for sponsoring tonight's event. Geisinger has done a great job throughout the pandemic. And as always, they do a super job with our student athletes at Bucknell day in and day out. So thank you to Geisinger. They're a great partner of Bison Athletics. Let's get right to it. And I'm going to introduce our guest. As I introduce them, I am going to use their maiden name. That's probably the most familiar name for folks watching at home. And we'll go through some of the things they accomplished while they were members of the track and field program. So our first guest from the class of 1992 is Trish Plasco. She was a three-time Patriot League individual outdoor champion, twice in the 200 and once in the 100. She was also a three-time Patriot League outdoor champion as part of gold medal winning relay units. Indoors, she was the Patriot League individual champion in the 55 meter and 200 meters in 1991. She was the East Coast Conference indoor champion as part of the 4x400 relay in 1989. For those of you that don't know, before we were the Patriot League, Bucknell competed in the East Coast Conference. So Trish got to compete in both conferences. She also won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and she was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2018. Our next guest from the class of 1995 is Tamika Hinton. Tamika was a 7-time Patriot League individual outdoor champion, including 4 times in the 100, twice in the 200, and once in the shot put. She was also a 2-time Patriot League outdoor champion as part of gold medal winning relay units. She was a 2-time All-Patriot League selection outdoors, and she was the Patriot League athlete of the meet at the 1995 Outdoor Championships. Indoors, she's held the school record in the 55-meter dash for the past 27 years. 9-time Patriot League individual indoor champion, including both the 55 meters and the 200 meters 4 times each, and the shot once. She was a Patriot League indoor champion as part of gold medal winning 4x400 relay unit in 1995. She was a 2-time All-Patriot League selection indoors. She was a Patriot League athlete of the meet at both the 94 and 95 indoor championships. She was selected to the Patriot League All-Decade team. She won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. And Tamika was a first ballot inductee into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2005. Wow, catch my breath. And our next guest from the class of 1996, Noreen Nadeau. She was a 5-time Patriot League individual outdoor champion, including 3 times in the high jump and twice in the long jump. She was a 4-time All-East selection outdoors, including 3 times in the heptathlon. She was a 3-time All-Patriot League selection outdoors. She was also the Patriot League athlete of the meet at the 1996 Outdoor Championships. Indoors, she was a Patriot League individual champion in the long jump in 1996. She was an All-East selection indoors in the pentathlon in 1994. She was a 2-time All-Patriot League selection. She won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and she was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2019. Our next guest from the class of 1999 is Jess Quintana. She was a Patriot League outdoor champion as part of gold medal winning relay 4x400. And also, that was in 1999. She was a 3-time All-Patriot League selection outdoors. Indoors, she was a 3-time Patriot League indoor champion as part of gold medal winning 4x400 relay units. And she was also a 3-time All-Patriot League selection indoors. She won the Robert A. Latour Service Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. And our final guest from the class of 2000, Yatunday Daniels. She was a 6-time Patriot League individual outdoor champion, including 4 times in the 200 and twice in the 400. She was Patriot League outdoor champion as part of gold medal winning 4x4 relay unit in 99. And she was a 4-time All Patriot League selection outdoors. Indoors, she was a 6-time Patriot League champion, including 3 times in the 200 and 400. She also was a 3-time indoor champion as part of the gold medal winning relay units. She was All East as a member of the 4x400 in 2000. She was a 4-time All Patriot League selection indoors, and she was selected to the Patriot League All Decade team. She won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and she was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2012. So Kevin, unbelievable talent. I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Do we have any more time left here? Over all these accolades.
Not after Tamika.
All these Mathewson Award winners, all these Hall of Famers, champions, relay champions. Yeah, I was looking forward to this call because I did see the list prior, and I did realize, boy, we have a lot of Bucknell lore right here with women's track and field. Obviously, as you know, we've had a lot of success within the women's track and field program, but I think these 90s teams really got things rolling, and now there's a legacy that we have to follow, and we're really proud that you guys are on here. So with that said, let's get rolling. We're going to start with Tamika here, and before we share our great memories, why don't you tell us how you ended up at Bucknell, the recruiting process, and actually, no, let's start us off with your personal life. Since you graduated from Bucknell, what do you do now? And tell us about your family.
Okay, currently I am a special education supervisor in Prince George's County Public Schools. It's a school system over 130,000 students. After I left Bucknell, I went to graduate school at Boston University, and I became a special education teacher for 8 years. And then I went back to school to get my admin certification at Johns Hopkins, and then I became an administrator. So this is my 23rd year in education. So it's been a busy, wonderful time. I've been married for just 12 years, celebrated my anniversary in October. And I've been in Maryland since 1997.
Great. Jessica, tell us what you've been doing since graduation. I see you around because
you sure do.
You're in the area.
Sure do. And if you would have asked me when I came as a freshman in '95 if I would have ever been a townie, I would have been like, no way. But yet, here I am. I'm very blessed to be here. Very blessed. I all jesting aside. So I currently serve as the director of admission at Lycoming College, which is in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. After graduation, stayed at Bucknell and worked on my master's in higher ed. Left the area and relocated after getting married to Ron Hess, class of 2000. And we relocated to the Baltimore area. I worked in higher ed in enrollment at American University and then Johns Hopkins, and then came back to Bucknell and had the pleasure of serving in the admissions office for 1 year, and then 5 years as director of multicultural student services. Took a couple of years off for some personal reasons. My family kind of needed me. My dad had fallen ill. Our youngest son hadn't started school yet, and so I thought it was a good opportunity to take a step back. And I've been at Lycoming College now. I'm in my 8th year, so we'll be going into my 9th academic year, which is unbelievable, really. But so married Ron Hess. I have 3 awesome teenage boys. I think I was blessed with these guys because I don't know how many people could catch up with them, right, and keep up with them. So they're high school junior, high school sophomore, and an 8th grader, and go to Lewisburg school districts here. And we're very active, and it's awesome to be able to be in the community and come back to meets and reconnect with alum who come back to town. It's been a real blessing for us as we've continued our journey here.
Great. And Trish, tell us what you've been doing since graduation.
I stayed at Bucknell for an extra 2 years, got my master's in counseling and school psychology. And I've been blessed. I've been working in the Colonial School District, which is in Plymouth Meeting, out PA, right outside of Philadelphia. I've been there for 26 years. I love it. So I guess it's really, if you like something, you don't really need to change too much. So I guess that part's a little boring. I haven't been all over, but I do love where I'm at. It's a great community. I have 2 kids. My son George is a junior at Penn State, and my daughter Sarah, she is at the University of Delaware as a sophomore. So yeah, it's been a great caregiving kind of experience for me, because in counseling, I feel like I spend a lot of time making sure everybody else is doing all right. So took on the caregiver role.
All right. And Noreen, why don't you tell us what you've been doing since you left Bucknell?
Okay, I don't know how exciting my life is right now, but I'm a 5th grade teacher. So I've been teaching for 22 years. So I guess that's interesting because, you know, every day is different for me. And especially this year, it's this year. So the schedule changes every week. So, but I've been in the same school district for 21 years. And I taught for a year in California, kind of explored a little bit and went out west a little bit right after college. But I actually settled back where I grew up in Connecticut. And so I'm just south of Hartford, and I have 2 boys, 10 and 12, and I'm trying to get them into track. I have a hockey player and a baseball player. I'm like, what about running? Don't you like to run? No.
Hard.
So, so, you know, they're their own person. So, so yeah, that's pretty much what I'm up to at this point. Just trying to survive this year pretty much. And, you know, I see myself finishing my career out in 10 years teaching, and I got into some coaching a little bit right after Bucknell. I was an assistant, a grad assistant at Central Connecticut for a year. And actually that was pretty cool when I did that, because I ran into some of my old coaches, Coach Bill Hodge. He was my coach at Bucknell, and he coached at a school, at a college that was in the same league as Central Connecticut. So I would see him and, you know, like have breakfast with him or something, because we stayed at the same hotels and stuff. So that was pretty interesting. So I had a really good time when I was a grad assistant. It made me realize how much I really knew about track, you know, because when you're in college and your coach is always yelling at you, like you feel like you don't know anything, you know. And then actually when I got to turn around and be a coach and like coach, you know, college athletes, it made me, and I knew a lot of different events because I was a heptathlete. And so so it was really like rewarding, because I felt like, wow, I had a lot of knowledge after being at Bucknell and competing for 4 years. So that was a really cool experience. So I don't coach now. I do volunteering for my kids' sports, but maybe someday I'd like to get back into coaching again. So.
Good. Well, Noreen, I became very good friends with Bill Hodge when he was coaching at Robert Morris.
Yep.
And we were in the same conference as well. Then I was at St. Francis University of Pennsylvania, and Central Connecticut was also in the same conference. So we probably bumped heads a little, and we didn't know each other at the time.
I bet you we did, actually. So we flew out to St. Francis one year for conferences. So I bet you were coaching then.
Was that a cross country race?
Yes, it was. I think it was conferences. Yeah, for cross country.
I remember the exact year. Yeah. Central Connecticut won, and St. Francis was second.
Yeah, I think it was pretty close. So
I remember that. We weren't happy. So, all right. And Yatunday, tell us what you've been doing since you left Bucknell.
I'm like flabbergasted that we're all in education, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm about to be like Kind of, yeah, like everybody else is doing the same thing I'm doing. So I got my undergrad in psych and kind of in education as a semi-master as well. I was at Bucknell, but then I was also I was also an enlisted in the reserves randomly during my time at Bucknell. That's a whole different story. We'll talk about a different time, but that's kind of who I was then. Still am to some extent. But went on to Fordham University in New York City to work in admission. And in college admission, just like, let's give something a try. Let's see what happens. And kind of stuck around 20 years later, but I flipped the tables and I'm on the other side. I did 5 years in college admission, then went to the other side and been working in schools now for the past 16 years. I started out in New York and New Jersey schools, and 6 years ago, my family and I, after one too many polar vortexes, flew out to LA, and we haven't come back. So, and that's been a really, really interesting experience. Seeing education in the US is something else. It's really having witnessed education in Lewisburg, education in New York, New Jersey, and now in the Los Angeles area public and private schools has been really, really interesting. So I switched the sides a bit. In public schools, it was a counseling / college hat that I wore. And now I am primarily in college counseling. So I've been doing that for the past 6 years exclusively here in Los Angeles. I am the mom of 2 daughters who kind of pretend like they want to do track, but they're not doing it. they are basketball players. I know nothing about basketball. I attended games. I roomed with a basketball player. That's as much as I got, but that is there. They love it, love it, love it. And it's been interesting and odd being inside for a year with folks who are used to, household of people who are athletes in a house together for a year. It's a little rough. But I'm really excited to be here and see everybody and hear how much our paths have converged and how similar our experiences have been just even in the introduction. So it's good to be back.
Well, there's still time for your kids to get involved in track. And I didn't start till 10th grade, and cross country in the 11th. So, it all started, I thought I was a football, baseball, basketball player. And let's just put it this way. I was on the teams. So I played football and I didn't play baseball. I was on the baseball and football roster, but I didn't play a whole lot. So I had to give track a try, and now it's my career. So, all right, well, let's go back, right back at Yatunday. What brought you to Bucknell? Tell us the recruiting process and why you decided to come to Bucknell.
Yeah, it was kind of an accident. I feel like a lot of my life is like, let's give this thing a try, and then it sticks. My guidance counselor at the time told me I should check out this school in Pennsylvania. They're hosting an overnight. Oh, since you're thinking about track, just get in touch with the coach when you're there. And so came out to Bucknell for an overnight and was like, this is, an absolutely gorgeous space. I met some of the nicest people that I'm still friends with to this day. Met with Coach Goulden and the team. It was a little intimidating, everybody. But it was this unexpected place where it felt like it would be the perfect opportunity for me to really focus on what I wanted to study, to be in this, in a super supportive academic environment, a place where I felt like I didn't need it to compromise what I wanted to do academically or athletically. So it was at least at that point in my life, felt like the absolute perfect match.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And Jess, tell us about your recruiting experience and how and why you ended up at Bucknell.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny for me to reflect on it, as I'm sure it is for Yatunday as well, given that we worked in higher ed and in admissions in particular. But I was a first generation college student. So neither one of my parents had gone to college. I had a couple of older brothers who eventually got their degrees, but did it in very non-traditional ways. And so navigating that process, was definitely something I kind of felt like I was on my own in. My parents are super supportive, and there was not a moment that they did not expect that I was going to go to college. It was something they definitely wanted me to do. And so they pushed me to, talk to teachers, talk to my guidance office, talk to my mentors in school, dance instructors, coaches, right? All of these people that the village that was around me during high school. And I ended up looking at I'm originally from New York, went to Nyack High School and looked at schools within about a 5-hour radius from home, right? So I would get recruiting letters, I would get admissions letters, and this is like the worst given what I do now. But I would actually like lick my finger and move, like wipe it over the signature. And if it wasn't a real signature, if the ink didn't smear, I would throw it away. Isn't that awful now for what I do? All right, it's okay. For those coaches who sign their own letters, and Coach Goulden was one of them. I pursued those and applied. I hadn't really done many college visits to actually my final college list during the application process. I had done a bunch of camps for soccer at a bunch of different SUNY schools and different university campuses around that kind of tri-state area. But it wasn't until I was admitted that my mom was like, okay, like we're going to drive to these places. And I'd gone on my only official recruiting visit to Boston College. And I thought for sure I was going to be a Screaming Eagle, and went to Penn Relays, and for the first time met Coach Goulden. I had just finished running the 4x4. It was like a super hot day in Philly. The track down there was hot. Everyone was burning up. I just finished racing. My coach and I, started walking over to the Bucknell team, and I, took off my jersey, my shirt. So I, walk up to Coach, and he's like, oh, Quintana. And I said, yes, Jessica Quintana, yes. And my coach introduced herself, and he handed out his hand to shake my hand. And he said, I'm Armrock Goulden, and we wear shirts at practice. and that was my first introduction to Coach. And boy, I'm not one to blush, but I felt it creeping up, and kind of put my jersey back on and continued our conversation. And actually, I had gone home, we had a good conversation. I'd gone home, and it was right before the May 1st deadline. And so he was actually still at Penn Relays with some of the guys on the team. Some of the women had come back to campus, and he had a conversation with my parents the night before. And May 1, my mom and I drove with deposit in hand to Bucknell, sight unseen. I met some of the girls. They walked me from the indoor track complex down to the gateways and back up, and that was it. And I walked up to Mart's and paid my deposit, met an admissions person up there, and that was it. I mean, so really, I really wasn't fully introduced to Bucknell until orientation. And again, a blessing. Life has its ups and downs. There were definitely some challenges, personally, academically, athletically, but I've been so blessed by the opportunity to be a Bison and graduate from Bucknell. So I'm very grateful.
Awesome story. Trish, let's hear your story.
Well, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I was recruited by Coach Brad Hackett.
Oh yeah, Muhlenberg. He's in Muhlenberg now.
That predates Hodge. But funny story was, so I met Coach Hackett. He had come to my house, and we had talked and everything about I was going to go to Bucknell. And I met, I had a friend in high school who was also on the cross country team there, Frank Gerber. I was running on the boys cross country team, and he talked so greatly about Bucknell, and I was like, I really wanted to give it a try. And so I get there, and I met two amazing sophomores, Lynette McBride and Allison Sager. And they took me around campus, and we had lunch in the cafeteria. And I met the team because everybody was eating at these two certain tables in the cafeteria. And I just felt like it was such a wonderful feeling, a wonderful home type of place. And I had been recruited by a lot of Philly schools, and I visited Philadelphia a lot. I was a small town girl, you know, I grew up in Tamaqua, PA. It just was a little scary for me as a 17-year-old at the time, going to Philly. I didn't feel like I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And Bucknell just had that, like, I felt safe. I felt like a family. I loved the campus. Everyone was so welcoming. But what I didn't realize is we didn't have a track. Okay, I don't know if you guys knew this. We had to practice at Lewisburg High School cinder track.
Yeah.
I didn't ask them to take me to the track when they showed me around campus. I just assumed we had one.
That's good.
Anyway, we did obviously get one. Beautiful stadium that we had. My junior year, and we hosted the Patriot League championships that opening year with a brand new track and a brand new league, Patriot League. We went from ECC to the Patriot League, and it was good. It all turned out great. And I don't know, I still kind of believe that running on cinders makes you stronger. Maybe it's just me.
Nothing like a little resistance.
Yeah, that's right. Little dirt in your shoes never hurt anybody.
There you go.
And your fingernails.
You bring your little shovel for the blocks, or I'm sure we had blocks back then.
Yes.
All right. Noreen, tell us your story.
So Trish, the first thing you should ask on a recruiting visit is to see the track. Come on, if you're a track athlete. Lesson learned, right? So I guess I didn't hear about Bucknell until, because my school was, I'm from Norwich, Connecticut. So, you know, I was about 5 or 6 hours away from Bucknell. So I had one friend of a friend who went to Bucknell, and that was the first time I kind of heard of it. And then, you know, by the time I was a junior and senior, I was getting some recruiting, you know, phone calls and letters and stuff. And which I'm probably dating myself, because now it's probably like emails and, you know, virtual calls, but no, we're literally getting letters in the mail, you know. So I started doing my recruiting visits around, you know, and I had, you know, I went to some schools like URI and UConn. I did recruiting visits there. And, you know, I wasn't like, the schools were fine, you know, I probably would have been happy there. But I wasn't like, you know, in awe by any means by any of the schools that I visited. And then when I got to Bucknell, which I'm pretty sure it was my last school, maybe I visited, I think I did 5 or 6 visits. And it was, you know, one of the last schools I visited because it was so far. And I was completely blown away, you know, by the campus. Like, the town is so cute, the campus. I stayed with Bridget Dean, Tamika, and Trish know Tamika, and Jess, I think you're, you know, familiar with with Bridget. She's an amazing person. She was a year older than me, so I stayed with her for my recruiting visit. And so she was so friendly. Her roommate was Paula Lyons. She was amazing. I know I met girls on the track team, including Tamika. Trish, you must have been there too when I was being recruited. And everybody was so welcoming. And then, you know, just on top of that, it was just kind of Bucknell it was kind of like the overall picture. You know, it had the academics were challenging, you know, it was going to be a great fit for me for athletically. You know, it was just really like kind of warm to me, and kind of like Trish, you know, I'm kind of a small town girl. Like, I probably would have been fine in the city somewhere. My brother's in Philly, he's a city boy, you know, but I just really enjoyed, you know, Bucknell's atmosphere and just the cute town of Lewisburg. And, you know, when I went back for the Hall of Fame a year and a half ago, I like so appreciated it even more, because then I got to see, like, I stayed in a bed and breakfast and I got to see more like of just the landscape of Lewisburg. And it's just so like beautiful, I loved it. So just going back, and campus is amazing still. So even more so now, I went to a soccer game. We didn't have a soccer stadium when we were there. And now it's amazing, to have that and more, the whole sports complex. So it's just, I was just blown away by Bucknell. And just like Jess, I'm a first generation college student. So I had no idea what I was looking at, when I was being recruited. Coach Goulden actually recruited me, but Coach Hodge came out to sign the letter of intent. And now I see all the big parties everybody's having when people are signing the letter. Nobody threw a party for me.
I don't have that either.
Paper. It's like this big deal. I'm like, nobody did that for me.
Me either.
So I'm like, what do you mean there's a party? What do you mean everybody's going to watch them sign, the letter of intent, and then I realized it's like this new thing, I guess. But yeah, it was just, it was amazing. And when I got there my freshman year, everybody was so welcoming. It was just a great place to be, and I love the challenge, like most track athletes. I just love to be challenged, and I want to always better myself. And I think Bucknell academically and athletically, pulled that out of me, and that's what I wanted. So I was really happy with my decision. So.
All right. And lastly, Tamika, tell us your story.
I have such warm stories. So I'm from Boston, and I never heard of Bucknell. Like, never heard of them, anything. So it was like they kind of reached out at the time. It was Coach Joe. I don't remember Coach Joe's last name.
Yep.
She reached out, and I'm going to tell you, she called and contacted me like she was like my guidance counselor or something. I mean, it was frequent. Like, how you doing? Just checking in. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm a first generation college student too. So in my high school, I had a coach, but I ran for a club. So my club coach was a college coach. So trying to go through, I couldn't get that help because it was like, oh, you're probably going to come run for me because I've been coaching you. And I was thinking, absolutely not, because I wanted to go away. So I had my two decisions were Bucknell or Boston University. So it's interesting, they're in the Patriot League now. So, Coach Joe, they were sitting there like, Tamika, will you come to school? Because I said, my parents are not driving me to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. They don't know where it is. And they were like, why are you even trying? My mother wanted me to stay close as possible. And they said, will you come here if you don't visit? I said, no, I can't come to a school I've never seen. So they were like, so what do we need to do? I said, I don't know, but my parents are not taking me, whatever. I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I had no response back. So then next you know, it's another call. Hey, Tamika, there's a flight for you. You're coming to Lewisburg or whatever. And I was like, hold on. Like, I think I need to like tell my parents or something first. But they were like, okay, I was 18, but I was kind of like, like, where's Lewisburg? I'm like, I don't know. I've only been on a plane one other time in my life. So when they were taking me to the airport and I saw the little plane that I had to get on, I almost didn't even make the visit. Like, I was like, it has propellers. Like, I was like freaking out. But I went, did the visit at Bucknell. Beautiful campus. When I immediately saw it, I said, this is great. Love the classes. Mm-hmm. I stayed with, it was Lynette and one other person, maybe Gina. Stayed with them, whatever. And I was kind of wondering where everybody was because they showed me and we were in the dorms. And I was like, okay, I can see classes, things are nice. But then they were like, you want to see how Bucknell is? This is terrible to say this. I said, sure. They took me out to Frat Row or whatever it was. Think about an 18-year-old city, straight up city person. You take me to the I've never seen any of the stuff in my life. Like, I was like, what are people doing? And it was like some beach thing. So sand all over the floor, people swallowing goldfish. Like, I was like, take me back to the dorm. Take me back. Like, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I was kind of like, this is college. Like, this is, because people said, get used to it. This is what it is. You're going to practice. But once the season's over, and I was like, this is what people do in this town. Like, like Walmart was the biggest thing, So I went back home and I had delivery. Coach Joe was contacting me, and I was like, the visit, part of it went okay. Track team was nice, but I just don't know about the other part. I think academically it's going to be fine. Track team. So I had to really do like a lot of soul searching. And then once Boston University was like, I had got an academic scholarship there, and I told my high school, give it to someone else. I'm probably going to go for some for track. Give it to another deserving person.
Oh.
Boston University thought, oh, she's going to take that. She got the academic scholarship, thinking I was going to go there, but I didn't, because it was in town. I decided I wanted to go away, and I wanted to be out. And the other reason, I didn't have the heart to tell Coach Joe no. He called me I was like, I don't even know what to say to her. You know what? I'm not home. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I was like a gullible high school. Like, I only took 2 visits, Bucknell and Boston University.
Oh,
I didn't really know all this recruiting. So I was just like, you know what? I like the school, I'm going to do it. And I'll never forget, Coach Joe's like, Tamika, did you make a decision? I said, yeah. He said, what? I said, I'm coming there. She said, no. What is your decision? I said, you come to Bucknell? I said, yeah, I guess so. And she said, you guess so? And she screamed. And like, they were screaming like crazy. And I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea at the time, like, this was, it was a big deal for Bucknell. Like, for me, I didn't see myself how other people saw me for running. I just thought like, hey, I'm another track person, I'm gonna come run. So when I got there, it was kind of like, we just sent you this thing. We didn't really think you would respond. It was just like, I started looking at the school, and I'm like, this is a great school. My school was a college prep school. So we would want people to come like that. So eventually other people came to Bucknell because I could come back and say, you know what, you need to apply. So, even though all the stories I love Bucknell, but when I tell people about the recruiting, you're just like, why did you go? And I'm just like, it was the people there when I stayed. And once I was there, Bucknell is what you make it. It's whatever you get with the people. It's about the people that you're with. It's not all this other stuff. So I knew once I got there and once I met the team, I would be fine. But if it went off that recruiting visit, and if Coach Joe wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have made it to Bucknell. I know I would not have made it because she kept it up like, this is what's going on with this school. This is what this team is doing. This is what we're doing. This is Coach Golden. It just kind of helped. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can make it here. But so all the little town, y'all see how cute and sweet. I was like, when I got off the bus to Bucknell, I was like, oh my God, like, there's one movie theater. There's like one success. Like, it was, it wasn't that much. Now there's more things, but it was a shock for me. So the small town people, so think from coming to Boston to come to Lewisburg.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I think it's a beautiful place.
That's good. Delia, tell us how you ended up at Bucknell.
Yeah, so I was on like a recruiting website situation. I can't remember what it was called, but I would get messages from coaches and stuff. Bucknell actually did not reach out to me. I found them just by searching, and it was between Bucknell and Elon and Ashland University in Ohio. They have a really great throwing program. And Bucknell just had the best combination of academics, athletics, and like extracurriculars that I was interested in. So here I am, and I'm so happy to be here. And I definitely agree that the people can really make your experience.
All right, good. All right, let's go back to Noreen here. Tell us your most memorable experience within the track and field program.
Well, I was thinking about this because there's so many. And you know what I remember the most when I tell my kids about my experiences, because there's just, like I said, so many to think about. I loved our pasta parties. When we would do pasta parties, like the night before a meet or 2 nights before, if we were traveling, whatever the case was, all the girls would get together in an apartment and we would make, pasta and bring stuff, and and some of the seniors would make stuff for the underclassmen, and it was just like the most fun experience. And it was such a great bonding experience with the girls, especially when you're like a freshman and you first come in and you don't know anybody. And right away the girls, I didn't run cross country, so so we had like the fall training, and so the girls pretty much once we started practicing, took me under their wing, and we started doing some of those like pasta parties, we called them. So, and I just love that. Like it was everyone was such a great memory for me. So, and then as I was an upperclassman, then I would start holding them in my apartment, but we had so much fun doing that. So it's just great. And just, like I said, the bond and share stories and get to know the girls, the younger classmen. So that was probably some of my favorite experiences at Bucknell. So.
All right. And Trish, your most memorable experience?
I would have to say probably 1991 Outdoor Patriot League Championships, hosting it for the first time and joining the Patriot League. We had the brand new track. We were hosting it. We won. It was like an amazing day. I just remember it being like this huge celebration, and throwing Coach Golden into the water pit for the steeplechase. And I just remember it was just such a great day. I had won 4 gold medals that day. I had never done that before, 2 individual and 2 relays. But I remember just the big hugs afterwards, and the cheering, and it was just, yeah, I still get chills. I have some pictures from years ago from that day, and I still laugh at how we all looked, but it just was like this huge celebration, and what a way to break in the brand new track and the entry into the Patriot League.
All right. And Tamika, most memorable experience?
My first track meet. So I don't know if Trish, you remember this. I ended up in the hospital.
I do remember.
Yeah, so I ran the 300, the one time I ran it, whatever event I had, next thing you know, I literally just fell out at the track. First track meet in college, debut, fall out.
I didn't remember that until just now. But
I ended up being in the hospital for like the weekend, and I was just like, you know what, can I get out of here? Like, there's something going on. I've been really looking forward to it. I'm fine or whatever. And they're like, no, you're going to be here till the weekend. And I was thinking, what a way to start college. I ended up in the hospital. And then
what'd you do? What?
I don't even remember what it was. I'm be honest, I don't even know. They
pass out?
I don't know. I don't remember passing out, but whatever it was, I was out. They took me to an ambulance to the hospital. And that was my way. And then my last track meet, Patriot League, getting an injury. Of course, we won the 4x1 outdoors. And I'll never forget this because Trish and I ran the 100. Trish won like the 200, like we were running. And we did the 4x1. My legs wrapped up. We win, and I couldn't run anymore. Like I was injured.
You were doing 5 events that day. It wasn't like there was no reason for you to,
but I was just like, and the only reason it was a memorable because I was like, I can't run. Like I literally said to Coach Hodge, I'm done. If I go hurt myself, I'm done. And they were like, no, go run. I said, I'm not running. He said that 200 is going to be going there. You better be in your race. I said, you won't see me over there. It was like over at the shot put or whatever. And then you see Trish runs, she wins the event or whatever. And he's like, what are you doing? You were supposed to be over there. And I said, I was not running that event. I'm done.
Are you kidding me? I was like thrilled. I was like, gold medal for me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Tamika's not running this one.
That was like, I'm I mean, it's like for that, it's just crazy. You start your freshman year, but I do. I enjoyed the traveling, even though we had the bus. I don't know if y'all remember the bus, old VCR bus traveling down Colonial Relay, sitting there, work on the bus. And I'll never forget, we were watching the movie Big. So, you know, Tom Hanks, the movie Big.
Yes.
And we were on our way and we're like laughing or whatever. And Coach Golden gets up there and he's like, what are y'all watching this stuff for? What is this? And we're like, it's Big. It's PG. He ripped that thing out of the bus and was like, you cannot watch movies like this or whatever. And we were literally like laughing, trying not to get in trouble. Like, does he know it's like PG? Like we're 18, 19 years old, 20 years old. And it was like no more videos for the rest of the trip to the track meet. We had to like sit out with the Walkmans or whatever. But it was like, you know, big. But he was like, no, you are not watching this type of thing. And I was thinking like, wow. I'm trying not to laugh, but that.
Tamika, did you just put in your Walkman?
I said Walkman. We
Your Walkman.
my little cassette tape or whatever, but I love traveling with the team. And like Paula, you talking about Paula Lyons, she was telling me, I saw her a few years ago, and she's like, Tamika, do you remember the hotel where you slept in the bathtub? And I said, huh? And she said, someone was snoring, and you were like, I got to go to sleep. And you went into the bathroom and you took the pillows and put it in the bathtub and went to sleep. And I said, I did? And she was like, how do you not remember that? I said, I must have really wanted some sleep if I was going to go sleep on a bathtub in a hotel that we just randomly, you know, went to. I was like, it's just interesting the stuff people tell you don't remember. But that's the kind of stuff. I just love traveling, getting ready to compete with the team because our team was, you know, pretty close. And I can tell you when Army Navy, that's why I love Coach Don and watching you guys beat Army Navy, because when they entered in '94, I mean, it completely changed the Patriot League. But when they came in, they were kind of like, bam, we're here. Like, y'all ain't touching us, you know, whatever. They had a lot more people. And I used to just remember, you know what? You know, we might be second place because we got a couple of times, but I was like, I'm beating these Army Navy people. They are not sitting there beating. I remember when I was my senior year last meet, the guy said, are you finally a senior? And I was like, yes. And he said, good. We're tired of looking at you. And I was just like, no, thank you. But that was the thing. They came into the Patriot League and they dominated. I mean, they just had throwing your distance, one throwing event. They had like 60 points, whatever. Like we could barely catch up. Like even when we were thinking to make a chance, but that's why I just remember they just came in and just changed the trajectory of the Patriot League. It just was like, bam. And it was just like, you know what? Let's get there, get going. But
yep. Good. And Jessica, your most memorable experience.
So, I mean, I think, you know, kind of when we started getting that role of winning Patriot League titles, that was pretty incredible. Again, Tamika's right on the nose, right? Army and Navy, super strong all the time. And when we first started breaking through with cross and indoor and outdoor, it was just awesome. But I think my most favorite memory, I don't know why a sprinter. So you got a bunch of fast girls on this call, by the way, which is pretty exciting. But between my sophomore and junior year, I thought it would be a good idea to train for cross country. And I went to Coach Goulden and I talked to him about it. And he was like, all right, you know, you can try that if you want to. He's like, but know that if you're going to do that, you know, you might have to move to the 6 or the 8. And I was like, you're playing. Like, it's okay. I'll just run the quarter. I'll stick with the quarter. And he was like, well, we'll see, train. So I trained that whole summer. And I got to go up to the cabin with the cross country team. You know, we had the race out. We actually had it on campus over by the golf course. And, you know, I was kind of in there and I was pretty excited for a sprinter to be like in the middle of the cross country team. Cause that was, you know, some darn good cross country runners in that time. And, at the cabin, Coach and I sat down. He was like, yeah, no, seriously, like you're going to have to run the 6 and the 8. And I was like, all right, I don't want to run cross. and that was the end of my love affair with cross country. But, you know, what I thought I was going to get for it and what coach and I talked about was that base. And I definitely, I mean, junior and senior year, started dropping my times and I think it made a big difference. But, being out there with the team, being in a place that was so special to Coach Goulden was really awesome.
Good. And Yatunday, most memorable experience?
I've been trying to come up with one. I do not have just one. I have just even sitting on here, looking at the track and Tamika's picture and, behind you, Todd, I'm like, God, first of all, it wasn't that until we returned. I'm like, what is this? What is this sorcery? Feel this cushioning. What is this? I really had so many good memories. So the pasta parties, Jess always made, I still have some of the ribbons and I still have my shorts with the pin, the blue and orange pin. So many really, really incredible memories. The championships, of course. And I feel like my senior year, we started this tradition indoor where we would come out to music. We would pretend we're bigger than Army and Navy and would come out to like music really obnoxiously, but it was so good. We were so bonded. It really felt like this one powerful source. An incredible, incredible group of girls. And there was nothing to me when I think of track. I never think of a singular event. I think of this team. I think of the power of running and how much you can gain from running in the pack. So even if I may be the only person on that track, in that lane at that time, there's always a tribe with me. I love coming around that final, in the indoor 400, you're coming around that final turn and just at the very end, the entire team is there and it feels like the roof is going to come down. Man, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it at all. When you see how many people are packed into the indoor space and you're like, there's no room on the track to run because everybody is just shoved in there. There is absolutely nothing like it. It is absolutely deafening in all the right ways. I remember my dad coming to a meet once, and he was an athlete, but he just kept saying, "You guys just run in circles all day." We do. We really do. And it's not a circle, it's an oval. It's just the craziest thing, and it's an insane endeavor. I did a little bit of coaching after I just stopped coaching this year actually. And it's just, there's absolutely nothing like it. And watching young people fall in love with the sport too is really just amazing. So I can't think of one. I have a fun memory of people falling over hurdles in the middle of races. That was hilarious. Or Latanya getting left at the caves. Coach Golden loved to take us on these like sightseeing trips in between. I had my first French onion soup in the middle of a freezing cold at this crazy little like hole in the wall place in some small Pennsylvania town. Just so many really insane good memories that continue to endure.
All right. I think Delia has a question here for you guys.
What advice would you give me or any of the other athletes in our program today about the college track and field experience at Bucknell?
Direct it to someone.
Oh gosh. Okay. Trish.
No problem. So with the people on the team, I think you've heard a theme going here, and I think you probably already feel it. The most important thing that you'll take away is the friendships and bonds that you made on that team that just last a lifetime. It's just really amazing. The feeling never goes away. I still have some really close relationships that I treasure, memories that I'll never forget. And honestly, it's that feeling, those people that you'll hang on to. It's the best part of track and field for sure.
Yeah, of course. Noreen, how about you?
Well, I have to agree with Trish. So that's probably the top of my list too, just the camaraderie, just the friendships, the support. But I also, when I look back to talk about like track in general as an experience, for, because if you run through college, you're running pretty much or throwing, jumping to your 22 years old, so 21, 22. And I think one of the big things that I took away and I still use like in my life today is that when you fail, which, in track, there's many times I've fallen on the hurdles. I, didn't make a height in the high jump. I mean, so many times I've failed in track, but it's kind of the lesson that you learn from it. And then you move on. So it's almost like you have to fail to learn from it. And I thought track was like a huge inspiration in that sense. And it didn't seem like it at the moment when I was like running track, because I was mad at myself for something, that I failed or I didn't make a time or coach was mad at me or something. But then like you walk away and you learn something from it and you don't realize it. And sometimes you don't realize it till years later, and it's like, that part's pretty cool when, you come to a realization that, wow, it taught me a lot, about real life, so I think that's like, you might not realize it now, but down the road, I think it does affect your life, like in a great way, because you learn how to pick yourself back up.
Sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Tamika, I'd love to hear from you. Any advice?
I would say one of the things to seize the moments in those moments of confidence, because I think when I see myself as a leader in my job, it all starts back from track. Working with people, trying to solve a problem, getting to a goal, trying to lead people up. People are getting down, you fall on the hurdle or do whatever, you got to keep getting up and just being positive with the people just to keep moving forward, because that's just that day. You get up, you get ready to start over again. So you just have to keep working. It's just like practice, putting the amount of time in there. Again, dealing with the people, I think that's the biggest. Like sometimes when I'm at work, I have to put myself, I'll say like track mode. And like my staff will know, like, like, look, we're gonna get this done. Like, hey, it's like championship. You know how many points we need in this event, whatever. You start sitting there thinking, but it's just that way you start thinking when you're interacting with people. And then just realize the goal is the same. Everybody wants to work together, move forward. If you win along the way, that's just another blessing. But in the end, it's just the bond that you have with the people. Because in the end, you're going to always remember the people, as you've been hearing today. You're going to have the excitement from the races, but it's going to be the people that's going to carry you on to your day-to-day job and when you work in your community and family.
Yep.
Great, awesome. Jess.
Yeah, so right now, especially for the athletes who are competing, I first want you to remain encouraged. You all have endured just some crazy times in this world, and I know that you all have gone through something that none of us experienced here, right? Sometimes you might sit out a season because you're injured. You might have to step back to do some military service or training, or you might have to do that, but your situation is different, right? You're freshmen, they lost part of their senior season of high school, right? They haven't even experienced a season yet. Competitions ended early last year, right? And so I think I want you to remain encouraged and focused and hungry. And I think that the hunger that you'll take, to the circle, to, the starting line, wherever you might be performing as an athlete, I want you to think about that hunger. You leave it in that space at that time, but you take that hunger when you leave Bucknell and you put it into whatever you're doing, because the measure of success, is important, but it's part of that journey, right? And if you put your best effort in every time, you're going to take that lesson beyond Bucknell and beyond the track and beyond the, field. And so just remain encouraged and stay hungry.
Awesome. Yatunday.
Yeah, ditto to what everybody already said. But I do want to say, I love in sitting here, I'm thinking, God, there is so much that we've learned and so much that we take for granted. I take for granted the the mental toughness. There is nothing, I mean, we literally do the same thing over and over, just repeats, like nonstop repeats of the same thing. Tweaking even the most minute points to improve your performance. And if you think about that as for a mere seconds, you know, if you're in the ring, you're throwing, a flash of a second, that event is over. If you're on the track in less than a minute, that time, you have trained months and months and months for that time. Think about the mental toughness it requires to stay in the game, stay focused, to still show up to that starting line every time with the same level of enthusiasm and energy and eagerness to not just succeed, but to eclipse the thing you did before. Man, we are so insanely strong. So when I think of, you know, when I think of the lessons and I think of, I'm echoing Jess, I'm echoing Trish, I'm echoing Noreen and Tamika. Yes, all of that. We are so, so insanely strong. This moment that we just endured, I'm saying we because this track family is forever. You are enduring it with everybody else. We are all going through this together, and you are standing on our shoulders so that when the season starts again, guess what? We got you. Go, do it. It's on. You know, this track family is forever, regardless of whether or not we competed on the same team at the same time. I was extremely aware of who these women are every time I stepped on the track. Every time I stepped on the track, I ran with you. So it is not, it's so much bigger than the mental toughness that, again, I cannot overemphasize how important that is. But again, know that you're not doing it alone. You've got a tribe with you.
Awesome, thanks.
Good, good. Well, we're going to do, I'm going to do one more question, and we're going to end it with a question from Delia. My question is, well, ladies, I've been around 20 years now at Bucknell. This is my 20th year, believe it or not. And I loved every minute of it, but I want to hear some advice from you that you guys can give me as the head coach of this program. And some of the advice I've heard from some of the other groups I've used it, and I love it. I love all the alumni in this program. I respect the history of this program, and I want to hear some advice from you. We'll start with Tamika.
I would say, as you're working with the students, to actually get to know what motivates them, not just with track, to really get a sense of what people are outside of that practice, because people come with so many other things. When we walk into the whatever, I don't even know what it's called now, where the tracks are, you know, everyone's coming there for a purpose. But I do reflect back. I wish people took moments to actually get to know me beyond an athlete.
Oh, that's good. That's good advice. So thanks. Noreen?
So I was going to say something similar. So being a teacher, and I was a coach, you know, for a short period, I just think it's really important to get to know your athletes. And not only that, like as a coach, but encourage the athletes to get to know each other and bond. And because that's really, really important. Because if somebody's not feeling like they belong, they're not going to perform. And it's just, and that kind of like Yatunday was saying, it's kind of a mental thing. You know, if they're not feeling like they're supported and you know, they're valued, they are not going to perform no matter how good of an athlete they are. So, you know, speaking to a coach, I would have to say really, really encourage the relationships between athletes, and really, just like Tamika said, get to know your athletes, you know, as a person. Just ask them how they're doing today, you know, how they do on that test, just basic, you know, things that even I've learned as a teacher. And I asked my kids about, you know, how they do on in their baseball game over the weekend, or, you know, did they go skiing, and, you know, it makes a huge difference just asking that one question and then listening to what they have to say. And in return, you know, they perform much better for me as students, and they would perform for, you know, much better for you as athletes.
Great. Trish?
I mean, it's hard to top those two answers. They definitely said so much in the, but I would say the things I remember the most with my coaches was that there were times where they had to be hard on me. I needed a kick in the butt sometimes because I would get very anxious and tight about things. And I felt like they had to know that balance of when I needed to be pushed, but also when I needed a hug. I know that's tough to say, but by knowing your athletes, you kind of get to know that balance of when to push and when to just, give that support that is needed as well. And the things I remember most were definitely those times where Coach Hodge would take me aside and be like, you know what, I know this was rough on you today, but you did great and I'm proud of you. And this is what I thought you did, well. And those just little conversations to help keep me motivated. Hell, they meant a lot. I still remember them.
Right.
So,
And Jessica.
I'd certainly, be remiss if I didn't echo what my fellow Bison teammates and folks here on the panel have said. I think just one of the things I'd like to thank you for, Coach Donner and Todd, even with this, this event and the many events that you have hosted as head coach of the program, you very much do respect the history and the program and all that's been done throughout the years. And I would encourage you to continue to do that. I think you see a lot of alumni engagement and a lot of alumni support for your current athletes because of that. And we know it's sincere, Coach. And I think that's something that, I would encourage you to continue to do. It's made a difference, in the experience of many of your athletes when I was working there. I know that a lot of the athletes, had talked about that and they would know the old stories, whether they're salacious or appropriate. And I think, there's a few stories. But I think those are the things that are important, right, in building tradition. And you've certainly built your own traditions and your own championship teams, and you've cultivated amazing athletes across events. And I think continue to keep our support, and then of course make sure you not only train your athletes in their bodies and their minds for what they're doing on the track, but for being active alum of the institution and the team.
Right. Maybe someday we can get you back on campus.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. I've had a couple alumni functions canceled already.
I want to see the new Hall of Fame setup. So, looking at the, once it's finally done, it looks so nice online, looking at the pictures, like to ask them go see it in person. I look forward.
Yeah. Maybe we got a young lady here that might make the Hall of Fame. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yatunday, what kind of advice would you give me?
Again, ditto to everybody, but also to one of the things I think that I learned a lot from, that I think our team or our championship teams benefited from, was the respecting the different talents, the skills, and the ways that different people showed up to the track. There wasn't the expectation that we should all be the same. Right. There was the expectation that you should have the similar work ethic. You shouldn't have the same work ethic, like, Jess's endurance, good God, but she got us through, the 10, 200 repeats or something insane. But really, the thing that really worked a ton for us is believing that regardless of how you came, you showed up as yourself, you did the hard work, you can be successful. And I think if you can continue to respect that tradition, I think it will be really wonderful. And getting to know your athletes is a part of that too. So yeah, that's so that every athlete knows that you show up in your own body, in your own way, as a valued member of the team is really, really important to continue the success beyond the time that we're actually practicing or competing.
Right. All right. And Delia has one more question.
My last question is, what advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell? I'll go back to Yatunday first.
I think remaining curious and open to the options that are out there to you. The Bucknell family is a thing. It is the the connections that you have, I don't want it to sound transactional, because it's more than that. You can call anybody and have a conversation about, here's what I'm thinking, not sure if this makes any sense. That person connects you with another person, with another person, with another person. To this day, I talk to people and connect my current students with folks through my Bucknell experience that has nothing to do with getting them a place. It's about learning and understanding who they are. So in terms of finding the right place, it's staying open to who you are, what you think you might want to do, ask questions, and be open to the responses that you might receive, because you never know, again, the surprises that show up as a result of you being open and asking questions is really shocking in all the right ways. But the Bucknell family is a thing. The connections you will make is a thing, and it is not just transactional. I think if you try to make it transactional, then it falls through the cracks. Don't do that. But if you try to just connect person to person and ask questions, and I have a question about this, Delia, you may have more responses than you know what to do with. So just being open.
Awesome, thanks. Jess?
So I think one of the changes that it's happened over time, since I think pretty much all of us on the panel have graduated from Bucknell and look for a job, is just the explosion of, social media, of networking platforms, right? Of all this awesome technology that you have. And I know Bucknell has its own infrastructure to connect you with alum, to connect you with employers. The services that are offered on campus are excellent. And so I would start thinking about it early, right? I mean, I think sometimes you're engaged in so many things as a freshman or a sophomore or a junior, that it isn't until senior year where you're like, oh, wait, I need a job. What just happened? I'm about to graduate. So I would advise athletes and other students, frankly, that are in college to just think about it. Like Yatunday said, stay open to what options you might have to do. You can graduate with a history degree and do anything from teaching to law enforcement to, director of admissions. Hypothetically speaking. So, I think staying open and investigating, making connections through different platforms, through campus, and of course, through the team. I don't think there's anyone that I was on the team with any of the years I was there, men's or women's program, who would not email or call a Bucknell track and field athlete, cross-country athlete back. Like, we will get back to you. And so, talk to Coach Donner, talk to some of the, folks that you might have access to on like the Bucknell Alumni Track and Field Program Facebook page. I know, like Facebook, I don't know, I'm not on Instagram, right? So that's like where you got to find me. But I think using those resources to make the connections is something we never had. So I would definitely encourage you to do that and use those.
Awesome, thank you. Trish?
So my job at Colonial comes via Bucknell. So what happened was I applied for a long-term sub counseling position at the Colonial School District. And I went in and I interviewed with their director of human resources, like, everybody does. And then I was getting up ready to go. And he says to me, well, I have someone I want you to meet. And he takes me into the superintendent's office. And here, it was Stan Durtan. He is a superintendent, but also fellow Hall of Famer, but for the football team at Bucknell. And we sat and we talked for a while, just all about Bucknell and athletics, and also about, he had the same internship I did at Warrior Run School District, and we had all these connections. So I leave and I go home and I'm talking to my husband and he's like, well, how did it go? I'm like, yeah, I got this job. Good. So yeah, I mean, honestly, Bucknell, it's just one of those bonding things. If you see somebody and there happens to be, they take care of you, they look out for you, and it's great.
Awesome. Noreen?
You guys had some great answers. So is there still, when I think the rest of us graduated, there was some percentage of Bucknellians that marry Bucknellians. Is that like still a thing that like a lot of people a lot of Bucknellians marry? There was some high percentage when I graduated. So, and it just makes me realize how much people stay in touch. And that was before Facebook or email or anything like that. So imagine, you know, people were really staying in touch, you know, after graduation. So, you know, like Jess said about Facebook and Instagram, it's so easy now to keep in touch with people. And I love, like, you know, Tamika and I, for instance, don't talk a whole lot, but I see her on Facebook, and it's so cool to be able, you know, and I can, you know, message her and say, hey, you know, I'm looking for this or that, or, you know, if I was looking for another job or a new job. It's just so cool to network with people, and so easy now. And I just think if you're coming out of college, I think you really need to be open-minded. That, like, when you ask that question, I was thinking you need to be open-minded and flexible. So you can't be super rigid coming out of college and be like, this is where I'm going to live and this is exactly what I'm going to do. So you kind of have to, you know, broaden it a little bit and say, okay, you know, I want to live on the East Coast. Who can I network with, you know, on the East Coast? And, you know, maybe you're not teaching 5th grade, but maybe, you know, you have something in education that you're interested in and you can network that way. So that's kind of what came to mind. I know, you know, the ladies already said a lot about different ways to network, but I'm thinking really stay open-minded, stay flexible, because a lot of times too, you come out of college and you decide that you want to do something different because it's not what you thought. So just being open-minded about it is, you know, really important. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Tamika?
I ditto everything everyone else has said, but I can say that one, the alumni, I'm going to say the Bucknell bubble is strong, but that bubble is invisible, but it's out there. Like right now, I'm on a few different social networks, whether it's LinkedIn or anything, but find out where Bucknellians, where the alumni associations are. Like I know that the coaches go throughout different cities, they host different events, but then there's a network from there that people, when there's something going on, like students will say, I want to come for a summer internship. They blast it out. Hey, if anyone have a space for students coming here for an unpaid internship, they need it for this amount of weeks. People are looking around. They don't even know the person, but if you know of anything, so you think about where opportunities you might want to live or whatever, or things that you're interested in. And what's your major?
Women's and Gender Studies.
Okay, so you got some flexibility out there, but think about some of the things that you might want to do. And I think for where you're going to live, it's a lot of different options. You talk to people, because, you know, I'm from the North, but I looked around like where I knew I wanted to teach, but I looked around different places. I was open to go to different parts of the country, but then I ended up going where my friend from Bucknell went to. So I still ended up with the core, and they kind of said, hey, I'm doing this. And they kind of helped me with my search for some of the things. Maybe you need to look here. So just keep the connections for people and just kind of looking around. But that alumni network, get with I don't know what it's called at Bucknell now, but get with that, get it registered, go on, register in the alumni book, and just as things come up, just shoot information. You can just ask a quick question that looks good, because you never know where you're going to end up going. I was a person who looked for everything until I was just decided just to be flexible, like everyone else has said.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right, Todd, I think that's it. You're on mute, Todd.
Wow, I was so into the conversation, I forgot. I'm going to start my comments and direct my first couple words here to Delia. And again, Delia, thank you for taking the time tonight to be on the call. Really appreciate that. It seems like we had some great interaction with you and the alums, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck this spring, and hopefully you'll be not behind me because you don't compete behind me. You compete over behind the press box.
Right.
I wish you the best of luck over there, and hope you do some damage this year in the Patriot League. So good luck to you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Luck. We'll be following you.
And to the alums, you know, as I sat here and I listened to this call, this call epitomized for me exactly what Bucknell Athletics, and specifically here, the Spike Shoot program are all about. I heard it mentioned numerous times about family, and being a Bucknell alum myself, with a father that went to Bucknell and a brother and a son who competed in a sport there. Obviously, it's a special place to me too. But as I think maybe I heard Tamika say it, it's the people at this place that make it what it is. And you guys, it's so fun and enjoyable to sit here and watch you guys light up when you talk about your experience and to share the stories and to see you laugh. And that's why we do these Through the Decades shows. And I'm really glad we got this group together tonight, because you guys did a great job. And I would thank you as well for all that you've done for the Spike Shoot program since you've graduated. We cannot do what we do for our student athletes at Bucknell without the support we get from our alumni. And I thank you all for that. And then for those of you at home tonight that tuned in to watch, we thank you for doing so, and go Bison.